Instincts we're born with. Skills and patience we learn. It's the combination of instinct, skills and patience, plus merit, which help us get where we want to be at any level. OSPRE was designed to help you achieve that combination. OSPRE has been developed to meet the management needs of policing into the next century, to find and then develop those people with the skills to manage other people and resources. People who'll cope with any situation, the highly volatile and rough end of police work, or the high-tech handling some very sophisticated communications equipment. And yet, remember right in the thick of things to think about people. Is someone drunk or ill? OSPRE brings out more than just ambition to fly high, an instinct for survival. It helps you seek, sight, select and secure career targets. OSPRE is based on methods used in medical units and hospitals around the world for testing the skills of doctors. We've adapted the methods specifically to meet real policing needs. OSPRE simulates reality with practical tests like these. Several hundred volunteers from forces around England and Wales took part in OSPRE trials. They say the two tiers of the exam, the written thematic paper and the activity stations, are not only practically based, they're fair and accurate too when it comes to assessing the people OSPRE is designed for. People who want to fly a little higher, or just fulfill an ambition to be the best they can at what they're doing already. And for those who select the managers of tomorrow, OSPRE produces individual profiles, carefully compiled profiles of personal strengths and weaknesses, a boon to supervisor and individual alike, because OSPRE predicts who are likely to become good managers of people, resources and situations. This way, no one's expected to fly before they're ready. No one tries to fly before they're ready. OSPRE, the objective, structured, performance-related examination, scientifically designed to get to grips with the realities of policing, balancing instinct with knowledge, practical skills and management techniques, and improving our quality of service to the public naturally. How does the OSPRE develop its unique skills, its ability to seek, sight, select, and then secure its targets? Is it pure instinct? Can it really be down to natural ability and nothing else? More likely it's a combination of these things, and what's known as learned behavior, those hours, days, weeks of watching those with more experience. More specialized experience. Just like humans. Our OSPRE brings together experience and instinct, or natural ability if you like, to help people who want to improve their career chances, to provide a balanced, carefully structured basis of support for development of their practical skills. Guide them through the learning process, the problems of coping with studying in isolation and having to remember and interpret all sorts of legal definitions. In short, OSPRE is designed to help you target not only the elements essential to success, but those that will make your daily diet more varied, more interesting, more rewarding. Let's see what's on the menu, what's contained in your OSPRE guide to the promotion examinations. Your OSPRE file spells out the differences between the two-part OSPRE format and traditional exams. You'll also see what those differences may mean when you take OSPRE and the way you'll be assessed. This one, the Sanford file, looks at the subdivision you and everyone else who takes OSPRE will be promoted to for the duration of the exam. We've created Sanford so that everyone starts off new to the area on an equal footing. The file contains valuable pointers towards issues that might raise particular policing problems you'll be expected to resolve during activity stations. These OSPRE stations, as they're known, are dealt with in the occurrence file. This gives you examples of situations you may well encounter in the exams. The thematic questions and the activity stations simulate events in Sanford that demand real policing skills. Now the assessment file creates the opportunity to ask yourself how I got what it takes for promotion. The file helps you assess yourself and find out how others view your chances. It'll take you through the skills OSPRE will test you on, and it'll help you identify your own strengths and weaknesses. The action file is designed to help you get over those times when you feel less than full of action. It looks at ways of learning, at home, in between shifts, and perhaps most importantly, at work. And it contains a few pointers towards possible wider reading, as well as interview, study, and exam techniques. In addition to these files, there are two more parts to this video. Part 3 looks in detail at the origins and evolution of OSPRE. It complements your OSPRE file, but perhaps more importantly again, it goes on to provide illustrations of Sanford. These illustrations of Sanford are featured substantially in the fourth and final part of this video. It runs through methods used to simulate real policing situations and spells out how you'll be assessed in those situations. It supports and illustrates the material you'll find in your assessment file.
I borrowed the bike.
Right.
Officer, if you just stand back over there a minute.
The final video section complements that same file still further by referring to the skills directory and Osprey profiles. That then is the menu. Let's just recap on what the diet's designed to help you achieve. There are 5 main objectives behind the production of this guide. Firstly, to get you to assess yourself realistically, to look not only at your promotion prospects, but at your personal aims and your direction in life as well. Secondly, to enable you, once you've completed an informed self-assessment, to follow a structured plan for taking the OSPRE exam. Thirdly, to help you set your own targets and plan how to use your time effectively. Fourthly, to help you know what to expect of OSPRE, having gone through examples of genuine exam questions. And finally, to pass the exam.
Exams are okay. They can, they prove that I can learn facts and figures, but they don't actually say anything about me as a policeman.
I had the sergeant's exam for some time before I was promoted, and I just wonder how the traditional examination can test my ability to be a sergeant.
Personally, I've never been very good academically. But I know I'm good at my job, I can do my job, and I know I'd make a blooming good sergeant.
Oh, to be honest, throughout my service, I've met lots of very good practical policemen who had made excellent sergeants, if only they could pass that promotion exam.
Facts and figures are okay, but you can look those up in a book. But I think it takes more than that to make a good sergeant.
Inevitably, any new system is bound to bring its doubters and possibly people who have already got a battery of arguments against those sort of innovations. As far as Osprey is concerned, it is a very practically oriented testing situation. It is something where an individual's quality as a police officer is most important.
We developed Osprey using some well-tried and tested methods of assessing people's skills, the skills they actually use or should use at work day in, day out. Osprey, unlike traditional exams, gives ample scope for seeing how candidates manage particular tasks, or indeed other people. How the candidates deal with information, often conflicting information at that. Or how they might bring personal style and techniques to situations demanding very different approaches and methods of communicating with other people. That's just one of the differences about Osprey, underlining the reason for the name, the objective, structured, performance-related examination. Another difference is that the methods Osprey uses help you assess yourself properly, from the beginning, right through to when it becomes critical to know your own potential and the direction you want your career to take. Osprey's namesake is superbly equipped for its environment, but instinct alone is not enough. A little help along the way is sometimes needed, which is precisely what our Osprey provides. Help and the opportunity to stretch your wings, set off in search of new horizons, new targets.
That's right. Our Osprey is a practical job-related exam. What we want to do is get more accurate appraisals of a person's potential for promotion. What we've done is adopt the principle that if you want to see if somebody can do the job, get them to do it. Really, we don't expect in the examination room to see a seasoned performance, let's say in the role of a custody officer or briefing. But what we do expect to see is that you've got the ability to get your point across, to do the job in real life.
Most people's memories of traditional exams are likely to be less than happy ones. The settings rarely reflected the real world. And for police officers who've had to wade through some weighty legal tomes, swatting up on much that's either obscure or soon to be obsolete, exams have often seemed far removed from the real world of policing. Which brings us to more changes introduced by Osprey. Police officers of the Central Planning Unit have spent 3 years with education specialists and with psychologists developing Osprey. It's based on a system used in training hospitals and universities the world over for testing doctors. Osprey, though, has been adapted by police officers for police officers. Policemen and policewomen from all around England and Wales took part in pilot trials, and a survey later showed that Osprey is recognised by the very people it affects most as being fair and accurate.
I don't think there's any question about it being fairer than an examination system which is geared primarily to the law. Our own situation is that until recently, a good lawyer would be able to pass the police promotion examinations. The situation with Osprey is that that would not be the case. We're looking for a professional, effective police manager, and a lawyer would not be able to pass that examination under most circumstances.
There are two parts to each exam, inspectors and sergeants. Part 1 is thematic, Part 2 is practical. Let's take the thematic exam first.
The thematic exam, we call it that because it takes you through, if you like, a day in the life in the rank that you're looking to become. What it is a multiple choice, problem-solving, 2-hour paper. It involves legal and procedural knowledge, but it isn't split up as it used to be into traffic, crime and general police duties. That's out. No longer separate entities. For instance, you might be asked to check the details of a custody record. What we're looking for is more accurate appraisals of people's potential for promotion. There's several different ways that we're going to assess you, all in a very practical sense, just like during the rest of Osprey.
That's probably why those early Osprey guinea pigs are so confident, because Osprey is so relevant to everyday policing. The direct relationship with what your job actually involves extends to the second part of the exam, the activity elements. These are tests that take place at Osprey centres throughout England and Wales, where you'll be expected to resolve a series of practical policing problems. In essence, you'll visit each of 14 rooms known as Osprey stations. You'll move from station to station every 5 minutes, dealing with a different type of situation in each one.
All I did was borrow a bit back.
Yeah, but you're always borrowing things, Harry. You've got
come
nothing
on,
better to do, have you?
Yeah.
This is Harry Jones that I've arrested.
A different assessor in each of the stations will mark you for skills in communications, problem solving, and your management of people and resources. By the way, the fourth and final part of this video deals with Osprey stations in much more detail. At this stage, though, let's just look at how we've taken some of the gamble out of taking promotion exams. Because candidates are travelling to centres outside their own force areas, there's an obvious need to standardise procedures and paperwork so that everyone's assessed fairly on the same basis. That's why a fictitious new town, Sandford, was created. It gets over the problems of having to allow for and assess lots of different force procedures. By transferring you, as it were, to Sandford, which is every promotion candidate's new subdivision in Westshire, everybody is equal. You could say that everybody starts with an equal disadvantage. No one loses out through being unfamiliar with local procedures and forms. Osprey is not designed to trip anyone up. This video and your Sandford file contain information to help you familiarise yourself with your new posting. On arrival at your Osprey centre, you'll be given all the information you need about Sandford. This video sequence is just a way of letting you get the feel of the subdivision before exam day, when the last thing you want is to be taking on board pure background material. Here you'll find demographic as well as geographic features of Sandford. You'll find the illustrations provide valuable pointers towards community issues, potential trouble spot and other policing problems, the kind of universal problems which will form the background to Osprey. This information will help you put the problems into context and feel more comfortable with your working environment for the exam. Our efforts to take away fears of unknown territory, so to speak, go even further. Where it's appropriate to your particular exam, visual aids will be made available at the Osprey stations. Remember though, this video is only part of the learning process. Use it in conjunction with the written material which comes with it in your guide. In a moment, you'll see a signpost for Sandford on your screen. That's your starting point for the self-contained pictorial profile of Sandford. Incidentally, to help you find this section, should you want to rerun it, the Sandford signpost is shown again at the end of the segment, but pointing in the opposite direction. Finally, before you do run it, there's no trickery about this section. We stress that it's not the basis of an observation test. It's not a way of testing your powers of recall. It's just a way of taking you round the beat without leaving your seat. Many people dream of being high flyers. It's getting there that's the problem. Then again, many of us are happy enough staying where we are. Going for something a little bit higher would be all right, we feel. It's just that it would mean getting involved in things we'd rather not. There are some fairly common complaints about getting promotion in the police, and about a lot of training come to that. Classrooms are not police stations, books are no substitute for doing the job, and so on. We'd agree that that might have been the case once, but not now. OSPRE brings the learning process and promotion exams as close to reality as possible. We've already made the point that OSPRE's emphasis on practical tests doesn't mean the end of studying theory. It just means that promotion candidates are assessed on what they're paid to do, police work. Here's how the activity part of the exam shapes up. It's held at centres all around England and Wales, at sites chosen as far as possible so that no one faces unfair travel problems compared with other candidates. You'll visit in turn each of 14 rooms running off a corridor. The rooms are known as Osprey stations, and in each one you'll deal with a different and realistic policing situation. The settings and furnishings obviously vary from centre to centre, so in your video we've simulated 3 or 4 typical scenarios. They highlight the most important aspects, for example, who'll be present and what's expected of promotion candidates. What won't vary is how long is spent in each of the stations, 5 minutes, while you perform a specific task under observation. The observer, known as an assessor, is looking for evidence of your legal knowledge and practical policing skills. The job's normally done by someone in the rank you're being examined for, and it'll be a different trained assessor marking your performance in each Osprey station. Your tasks will vary, but you won't be expected to perform like, for example, a custody officer who's already fully fledged and experienced in that post. Here's how some typical Osprey station assessments might go.
All I did was borrow my back.
Yeah, Barry, you're always borrowing things, Harry.
Oh,
You've got
come
nothing
on,
better to
Mitch.
do, have you? This is Harry Jones that I've arrested.
In this first case, you'd be told that you're the custody officer. The PC's brought in a man he's arrested on suspicion of theft. His explanation is a credible one, but it does contradict the PC's version of events. It's up to you to ask questions, establish facts, and control the situation. Then make a relevant and reasonable decision.
Harry, hold on a minute. Let's listen to some facts here, okay? Harry, I want you to listen to what this officer's got to say. I'm going to give you your opportunity to speak and say your side of the story in a minute.
Yeah, I'm late for work.
Okay, then we'll make this as quick as possible for you, and then we'll try and see what we can sort out. Officer, what are the facts, please?
Right, so this is Harry Jones that I've arrested for taking a bicycle belonging to Mr. Williams of number 10 Acacia Avenue. Apparently he'd been upstairs and he heard a noise at the side of his house. He looked out the window, but he was just in time to see his bicycle being ridden off down the road. He couldn't give me much of a description of the offender, but he said it was a small male, which fits Harry's description here. So Harry.
Yeah, what shot? I borrowed my
Right,
bag.
then.
He's my mate.
Harry, let's just hear the facts, because we want to get this sorted out as quickly as possible. Now,
He
Officer,
was
carry on.
riding a bicycle that matched the description of Mr. Williams' bicycle. So I've arrested him for taking the bike and enforcing it.
You've got no reason to keep us here.
Right, Harry, tell me your version of the story.
Right, all I did, started work today, I've got a new job, I borrowed my mate's bike, I took it to work.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
Hold
always
on a minute. Just take a stand over there, okay? We'll just hear what you've got to say. Take a seat, Harry. We'll have a chat about this. Right then, tell me what's happened.
You know, he doesn't mind, so I
What's your
took it.
mate's name?
Les Williams,
And where does he live?
10 Acacia Avenue.
Is this not the same address as the complainant?
Yeah, actually the complainant is a Mr. Les Williams of number 10 Acacia Avenue.
And you've known Liz for a while, haven't
Yes,
you?
I have, yeah, that's why I borrowed the bike, he wouldn't have minded.
Have you borrowed it before?
Yes.
And
So,
he doesn't mind on previous occasions?
No, I don't mind, no. You know, you've got no reason to keep us here, I've got to be at work.
So if we contacted Mr. Williams, he'd be able to verify this, would he?
Yeah.
Do we have the telephone number of the complainant at all? Can we give him a ring and hopefully sort this out as quick as
No,
possible?
I'm afraid he's not on the phone, Sergeant.
He's not on the phone. Right then, as you're the officer in the case, perhaps you could go down to the complainant's address and have a word with him.
Yep.
Let the control room know what's happening, and then we can let Harry go as soon as
Yeah,
possible.
well, we're
I'll
up,
do
you
that.
know.
Right, Harry, you understand why you've been arrested? Theft of this pedal cycle.
Well, it wasn't theft, I borrowed it.
But the complainant has made an allegation of theft. He doesn't know that you borrowed this bike, so obviously we need to verify it. You said that in previous instances you have borrowed the bike. It may well be that this matter can be sorted out quite easily and you'll be able to go to work.
Well, right, yeah, do that,
Okay,
but
then
just be
I
as
have to
quickly as
book you
possible,
in,
yeah.
and we'll do the procedure. I'll just ask you to sit in the detention room, okay? We've got a few people going to court this morning, and it'd be best if you sat. You understand why you're here, Harry, and the checks that the officer has to make before we can release you. I have to book you in now and take some property.
So, what was the assessor looking for? What would you have done as the promotion candidate in that situation? Let's look at what the examiners would regard as your targets. What the assessor was marking you on was whether you controlled the situation.
Harry, hold on a minute. Let's listen to some facts here, okay? Harry, I want you to listen to what this officer's got to say. I'm going to give you your opportunity to speak and say your side of the story in a minute.
Yeah, I'm late for work.
Okay, then we'll make this as quick as possible for you, and then we'll try and see what we can sort out. Officer, what are the facts, please? And we give him a ring and hopefully...
You'd be watched to see whether you laid down correct procedures.
Right then, as you're the officer in the case, perhaps you could go down to the complainant's address and have a word with him. Let the control room know what's happening, and then we can let Harry go as soon as
Yeah,
possible.
all right, you know.
Right, we'll have to book you in. We have to carry through the procedure. We'll make it as quick as possible. We'll just ask you to sit in the detention room after
We'll
we've
make
taken
it
your
quickly as
details.
possible, yeah.
Right then. Officer, could you also do a name check before you go and see the complainant?
Right.
All right then. Are you happy with the course of action?
Yeah, no, that's okay. I can check the story out.
You know, I'll be...
Would you like to sit down?
We'd need to see whether you collected and managed
Right.
information properly.
One of my mates, back this morning, I was late, so it was there. I usually would ask him, but I borrowed it. You know, he doesn't mind, so I
What's your
took it.
mate's name?
Les Williams,
And where does he live?
10 Acacia Avenue.
Officer, is this not the same address as the complainant?
Yeah, actually, the complainant is a Mr. Les Williams of number 10 Casey Avenue.
Have you borrowed this bike before?
Yeah, you know, I borrow it occasionally, but, you know, I don't see what the problem is. I know him. The thing is, I'm late for work. I've started today, I'm 10 minutes late already.
We'd listen carefully for whether you posed the right questions and established details of evidence.
So I'm going.
And you say you've borrowed the bike from him before and he's been quite happy about it?
Yeah,
So if we verified this, we could sort the matter out as quickly
Yeah.
as possible?
yeah, the thing is, I'm late for work.
Right, okay. Arrested. But the officer
You'd
has
also be monitored for whether or not you checked facts properly, rather than just collected details which you took for granted were facts.
from Les Williams. So the officer needs to verify this and check with Les that this is correct.
The thing is, just, you know, we'll do it, but hurry up about it.
Right, would you like me to ring your employer and let him know
Yeah,
what's
that'd be
happening?
advisable. Yeah.
Okay then, we need to book you in, and I'll ask you just to sit in the detention room whilst we get the result back from the officer, and if it is, you know, that it has been a genuine mistake.
The end result of your actions in Osprey stations is not the be-all and end-all as far as the assessors are concerned. It's more important that you display potential, that you hit the targets we know as management skills. As we've already said, no one's expected to perform as a first-class custody officer when they're not practiced in that role. You are expected to show some style, to show that you watch and listen, weigh the facts, and manage the information which you glean. And they want to see how you handle yourself as you home in on the targets. Remember, seek, sight, select, and secure. Now, here are some other samples of Osprey stations highlighting some of the skills we're looking for. There are two for would-be inspectors. But first, here's another one for potential sergeants. It's a scenario which involves you in making decisions based on a video recording of an incident to which you're called.
Hello, Sergeant. Well, what's happened in fact is that about an hour ago, this joker comes into the shop, picks up a bottle of wine off one of the shelves and just walks out with it. Unfortunately, nobody saw him. Anyway, about 10 minutes ago, he comes back in bold as brass, gives me the wine back and asks me not to phone the police.
I just don't know what came over me. I was in the shop looking at the wine and I picked a bottle up, and the next thing I remember I was out in the street with this bottle of wine, and I thought, Christ, somebody must have seen me. What have I done? And so I walked around a bit and thought about it, and then I took it back to the shop.
told this bloke that he's under arrest for pinching that wine. But I weren't sure having heard what he said, and that's why I simply...
All eyes in the shop are now on you. What course of action are you going to take?
Well, my course of action would definitely be to bring him back into the police station. There's quite a few inquiries to be made, and I don't really think it's practicable at that location to do those. I've considered all my options. There are quite a few, but what we've got to get back to is the basics, and that is that he has initially committed theft. So I agree with the PC's actions when he first attended the scene. The other options are he could be de-arrested, he could remain arrested at the scene, and he could be contemporaneously interviewed. But is it really practicable there? And also, let's look at it from another point of view. He may well be ill. There might be other considering factors that we need to look into, and it wouldn't hurt to bring him back into the police station and sort this out.
What points in relation to theft have been proved to you?
Well, he has the property, he has been dishonest, and he has left the store without making payment. He has committed all the 3 points of theft.
What other options are available to you in relation to this situation?
You've got a printer for me to review.
Oh, so, yeah, Bolton's the one.
And what's he in for?
He's in for burglary, sir.
When did that take place?
Well, it's been a series of burglaries over the last 3 to 4 weeks at local schools, but the one he's been arrested for specifically is one that was at the end of last week.
Yeah. When was he actually arrested then?
He was arrested at 8:30 this morning.
Right, now then, do you know what was stolen?
Yeah, electrical goods from the school laboratory. That's been the pattern for all the schools.
Yes, and how much has actually been recovered, do you know?
There's, as I understand it, there's a couple of items, identifiable items have been recovered in Bolton's house. The rest is still missing. There are 2 suspects for these burglaries. One of them is Bolton. The other one, D.S. Wilson knows who he is, but he hasn't been arrested yet. They have got an address for him, but I assume that's where they are at the moment. That's where they went out this morning after they left Bolton here.
How many times has he been interviewed then this morning?
He's only been interviewed the once since his arrest, and he wasn't having anything.
How long was that?
That was for 20 minutes, that was it.
So what we've got then is somebody arrested for a series of burglaries. We suspect that he's done schools before, and there's a large quantity of electrical equipment gone, which probably amounts to somewhere around £2,000.
Yes, sir, yeah.
And he's been interviewed once this morning for 20 minutes.
Right.
And you expect CID are out now trying to find an accomplice that
That's
the suspect
right.
was with him at the time
That's right,
of the
sir.
offence.
Yeah.
What I'd like to do now is go down to the cell. Which cell is it? Number 3. Can you all hear me? Can those at the back hear me? Yes? Good. Well, as you can see from the board, what we're going to be doing tonight is a pub raid on the Golden Lion Public House, which is situated, as most of you probably know, on Warwick Road. There is a private area at the end of Warwick Road where the pub is situated, and we're expecting about 9 people to be in the lounge and bar area. And we will be going down there at midnight. They've checked it out, there are no extensions or anything. Obviously we don't want them to see our approach, if at all possible. We haven't got a good view of this area from this side of the pub. There's no real big windows there. I want these officers, PC Murphy, PC Gardner, PC Collier, to quickly make the way round through the alley, round to the back of the premises, get into situation there, and obviously contacted by radio once in position, so that we know they're there and settled. I will actually make the initial entry into the premises, followed by Sergeant Smith, and we will then be making our way to the licensee if he's on premises, or some member of the staff, depending on who's there. What I want PC Jones and PC Brown to do is to go into the public bar area. So we've got PC Colquitt, PC Tapley into the lounge, looking at whatever offences might be committed there. obviously we've got to get in very quickly, be vigilant once you're on the premises, because this sort of evidence is lost very, very quickly. Obviously the evidence is anybody with a glass in front of them, find out what's in the glass, when they bought it and who from. Machine Sergeant Smith will be at the bar, hopefully with the licensee or any other member of staff, and waiting for you to bring any evidence to us. Any questions? Well, there you have it then. You can all see from the board your positions.
So, having gained an insight into the practical elements of Osprey, as well as the thematic part 1, what about our claim that this is a more fair and accurate way of assessing your skills in police work? At the end of the day, if you go for promotion, what you're effectively saying is that you're putting yourself up as someone who could do your boss's job. Surely then, there's no fairer way of judging you than by asking you to have a go at the job and be overseen by people who already do the same job, but who don't know you at all. Those assessors, by the way, and remember there's a different one in each of the 14 stations, will probably hold the rank you are being examined for. And they use carefully structured checklists to make individual judgments of your performance. They are all specially trained for the role. They can't influence one another's judgments of you, but their collective assessments indicate pretty accurately and without bias your ability. Your ability to supervise and manage other people, some of whom could well have more practical policing experience than you have. In other words, Osprey is about testing you on what you can do, not just what you know. It's designed to identify and develop in people the skills required of first-line police supervisors. One of Osprey's cornerstones is the Skills Directory. It sets out the elements which make up those skills we need. Another cornerstone is the Osprey Profile, providing you and supervising officers back in force with an accurate and unbiased assessment of you, based on the combined marks of the assessors. Whether you pass Osprey or not, you'll get a profile listing your strengths and your weaknesses. The same profile goes to your own force. And here's one strength of Osprey that's not immediately obvious. The profile, like the rest of this guide, can make you more aware of yourself, encourage you to find out how others see you. It'll provide you with the strategies to develop yourself in areas where you need to display confidence and competence. And that has to be worthwhile, whether you want promotion or simply to make more of yourself in your present job. Promotion is fine for some, but it isn't the only avenue to satisfaction. Either way, Osprey gives your career that little extra, whatever your instinct tells you.